guys, it's Ash, your truth-bombing fairy godmother for everything love, dating, and relationships. If you are really struggling to move on from an ex-partner or have that one person that you cannot stop incessantly thinking about and just can't seem to let go, then this video is for you. 2 weeks ago, I did a video on how to move on from an ex in isolation and how to get over a breakup in quarantine. And unfortunately, based on my response to that video, there is a lot of you out there who are struggling to move on from an ex-partner right now. So today I wanted to pick a topic that sort of expanded on that further. I will say that today's video is more so catered to those whose breakup perhaps happened a little while ago or even a long while ago, as opposed to those who are dealing with a breakup that is very, very recent or fresh, and I will explain why that is in a minute. But what I'm going to be discussing is one of the key reasons so many of us remain hung up on an ex and unable to let them go, which is that we confuse wanting to be with someone with wanting to be like someone. Let that one sink in. But first, before getting into all that, don't forget to click that subscribe button below if you haven't already done so. I put new love, dating, and relationship videos out every single week, so if that sounds like your type of thing, then please stick around. In my first video about grieving the loss of a relationship and moving on from an ex during isolation and quarantine, I spoke a lot about being willing to truly sit with your pain. And that is why today's video is more so catered to those who are dealing with a breakup that isn't so fresh and recent, because in those very early beginning stages of a breakup, sitting with your pain and acknowledging your grief and loss for what it is really all you can do. Acknowledging your pain and simply allowing it to exist and remaining present within that experience for as long as your heart needs it is all you can really do. As shit as that is, you just have to be willing to sit with yourself, just like you would sit with a friend who is hurting. However, as time begins to pass and maybe a few months have gone by, generally speaking, the emotion isn't as raw and overwhelming. You generally get a bit of distance from that just overwhelming, can't eat, can't sleep, can't function type of pain and sadness. And once you've gotten to that point, you're able to analyze the situation with more honesty and clarity, which is fantastic because it gives you the opportunity to see the situation for what it really was, or perhaps for who your ex really was, which will allow you to understand why it is that you're still stuck on them. Because make no mistake, if you are still very much hung up on someone who has made it clear either through their words or more importantly through their actions that they don't want to be with you, and a lot of time has passed, I'm talking several months to even several years, and you are still stuck, there is a reason. There is a reason you are still hung up on them, and it's not because of the obvious reasons that you might think. It's not because they were your one true love, or you guys were meant for each other, or that you're meant to get back together. Honey, no. There is a huge variety of reasons for why we remain stuck or unable to move on from an ex-partner, such as relying on them for validation or approval that we were enough or that we were worthy, or perhaps them leaving us has triggered a lot of deep-rooted fears or false beliefs about ourselves, such as a fear of being alone or a fear that we will never be enough for someone. And it's reasons like this that make things like therapy and professional help so beneficial for helping you to understand your own individual reasons. But in my very unprofessional opinion and experience, this one reason is why so many of us remain stuck and unable to move on from an ex, which is simply we want to be like them, not with them. And further, we are failing to be all of the things we admire in this person. We are simply projecting all our unfulfilled wants and desires for ourselves on to them. I've actually written an entire article about this, so I will link that down below for anyone who is interested. But in essence, oftentimes when we cannot stop obsessing about an ex, or we've really put them on some type of pedestal, it is because they have qualities that we're really attracted to and that we really admire, and they're qualities that perhaps we lack but desperately want. So our inability to move on from them is because we're neglecting to strengthen or work on the parts of ourselves that we wish that we had, and instead are looking for those qualities in another person in an attempt to fill that need or fill that void. We're looking for someone else to save us from having to do that work ourselves. To give a personal example of this, which I spoke about at length in my article, I had a ex who I call a nice guy asshole. He was a good guy, but just not a good guy for me. And his care factor about me and our relationship was minimal. But he had a lot of qualities I really adored. He was really fun and exciting and adventurous, and he was really well traveled and exposed me to people and environments that I'd never been exposed to before. And for someone like me who grew up in a very strict, restrictive household and was bored and restless beyond belief, being with someone like him felt like a dream. I always felt like a bit of a loser, a bit of an outcast, but being associated with someone like him made me feel like I was more fun and exciting and adventurous simply by that association. I felt like I mattered more purely because I was with him. So because I allowed him to become my sole source of my self-worth, when he dumped me, my little house of cards just came crumbling on down. I couldn't rely on him to make me feel fun or exciting anymore. I had to learn how to do that myself. And through this very long process of learning how to fulfill my own needs and save myself instead of relying on someone else to save me from my boredom and unhappiness, I learned that I didn't really want to be with someone like him. I didn't want to be with someone who was completely emotionally unavailable to me, who always made me second guess where I stood, someone that I never felt completely confident or secure with. No. What I wanted was to possess some of the awesome qualities that he did have myself. I wanted to be that exciting, adventurous, worldly person, and the reason I couldn't stop thinking about him was because it was my psyche's way of urging me to take action and pushing me to model some of the behaviors and characteristics that I was so drawn to in him. My rumination over him was much more about what he represented rather than wanting to get back together or anything stupid like that. So, as a bit of an exercise to see if perhaps this is playing a role in your inability to move on from an ex, what I want you to do is make a list of all of the good qualities about your ex, and very importantly, make sure you then counteract those with all of their bad qualities too, because let's face it, your ex wasn't all that. Okay? Stop lying to yourself about the quality of your relationship, because I can guarantee you it wasn't that great. Once you finish your list of positive and negative qualities, take a really good look at the list of good qualities and be very honest with yourself about whether or not you are making any type of effort to possess or exude any of those attributes yourself. Perhaps your ex was a very confident person, and confidence is something that you lack but desperately want. And instead of actually working on developing that within yourself, because, that would take actual effort and work, you've tried to take a shortcut of thinking that simply being with a confident person was enough to satisfy that want and desire within yourself. Or maybe they were super hardworking and determined, and ambition is something that you lack but really want more of. Moral of the story is that you can be all of those things yourself, and your incessant thinking about this person is very likely just a signal that you are neglecting to be all of those things that you so desperately admire in this person. I would really love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. You know what? Hell, let's go ahead and do the exercise that I just suggested in the comments section below. Go ahead. You're in quarantine. You've got nothing better to do. Let's go ahead and read your list and then take it one step further by answering questions like, what is your ex doing that maybe you aren't? What do they practice that maybe you don't? And most importantly, why are you wasting your time pining over someone who is being and doing all the things that you want to be instead of being and doing all of those things yourself? Okay guys, that's it for today. I'm sending so much love to those of you who are struggling with this. I know this current situation is making it really, really difficult for so many of you. But the good news is that you can do exercises like this in quarantine and isolation. You don't need to go out to the bars or go clubbing or whatever to move on from a breakup or to move on from an ex. I promise. Please know that you are not alone and that you will get through this. I promise. See you next time.